Okay, we're back. It's time for another bite at the apple, as they say. So here we go. I was talking to my brother, who's probably my biggest supporter in terms of, like, you know, the nonsense projects I take on or things that I make. And he was like, most of the time when I see people do something like this, they don't, like, necessarily put the entire thing online. They'll just put, a portion of it. And I think he was trying to gently suggest to me that, like, what'll end up being like 12 hours of me playing this game is excessive, and no one's going to want to watch it. And I don't think he's wrong. And yet, I think that's how it's gonna work out. Why do I think that? I just have a feeling. Can we just say that? I got a feeling that that's how I'm gonna do this. He also suggested that I may want to, like, alter the rules. So one of the things he suggested, the best one I think he suggested was something like, maybe if you, like, are able to get through worlds, like, 1 through 4 without dying, you could say, like, okay, you can warp to world 5. If you are consistently making it without any trouble. I mean, because, like, these worlds, right? Like, it's not like I'm struggling here. And he was like, maybe, that way you can get through it a little easier. And it's like, what are you trying to prove, He didn't say that. And I know this all comes from a place of, like, wanting me to succeed and be happy. So I do appreciate that. And at the same time, I was like, this is the person who probably has more faith in me than I do. And even he's like, I don't know if you're going to make this goal. And he was like, how long do you think it'll be before you get to Mario 2? And I was like, honestly, I don't know. I kind of thought it would be a little easier than it has been. I thought that these games would reveal themselves to not be quite so difficult. Because I was like, I've managed to play some games that as a child I would have considered impossible. Your Castlevanias and stuff. And I was like, I don't know, they were difficult, but they were not nearly as impossible as I had, thought when I was a child. And I was like, maybe Mario's the same way. And also I was like, it's not that long, so it shouldn't be that hard for me to get good. But that turns out to not be completely true. So, the more I thought about it, I was like, how long will it take me? And I was like, well, here's what needs to happen this year, I think. Oh, fuck. I either need to finish this relatively soon, or never make it. So in other words, it takes me, like, the entire year of playing this, and I never finish it. That's the funniest outcome. And, like, would be the most hilarious in terms of, like, I guess if I was watching someone do it and was like, they made a pretty modest goal for themselves of finishing a, fairly easy game, as Nintendo goes. And, they're starting on the world they left off on, so it's, like, really... And they could get to... He was in World 8 pretty early on. So this seems very doable. And if it took me the entire year of doing that to sort of ascertain that, like, nope, not doable for me, that would be the funniest outcome. I must admit. So there you go. Oh, shit. I don't know. These guys, like, never gave me a problem before, and now they're giving me a lot of problems. Like, psyched myself out on these fish. I think you just gotta Keep going. Woo! Woo! So yeah, I was like, I guess the best, the worst thing would be if I played this for like 3 months. Because then that would be like, well, that was kind of underwhelming. But if it took me 9 months and I finally got there, that would also work. Because I feel like that would feel like an incredible victory. You know what I mean? I would feel pretty good about that. And like once I'd done it, I'd be like, I fucking did it. But yeah, and as far as like, possibly reducing these videos, I don't foresee that happening necessarily. But I could see if we're getting to the 6-month mark and we're still on the same game, it's possible that I would run out of things to say about it. And about video games in general. I'd have to I don't know, come up with topics. I'd basically have to do a podcast while playing a game. So this is like the visual version of a podcast or something. I don't know. It would be weird, is what I'm saying. I know that comes as a tremendous surprise. I did make an attempt to increase my odds a little. So I said that I would only use resources available, from like the 80s or so. And I did do that, sort of. I looked up on Internet Archive a couple guidebooks to this game. So they were available at that time. I got them online, so it was a digital format, but this wasn't like a guide that was created in 2005. This was like the How to Win at Mario that you would recognize the cover of because they were extremely bad. Because someone was pretty smart in publishing those books. Like, that industry is dead. Talk about like industries that have suffered because of the internet. Video game guides must be like practically non-existent. I mean, you go to like the used bookstore and they'll still have a bunch. And I'm like, I guess somebody's still doing this, and maybe I would. Because, I do have weirdly fond memories of playing like Metal Gear Solid with the guide. And it was like, I don't know, paging through the book was enjoyable. But at the same time, I can't imagine there's like the industry that there was now. It's almost too like back in the day, the publishers of guides were like, can you put like one impenetrable idea in your game? And then we can publish a guide for it, because like, that would help us out. Damn it. I did also consider, talking with him. I was like, well, maybe I could do something like, use the save state on this NES Classic when I'm in World 8-3 so I can practice it a few times. And, like, maybe that way I could actually finish it. So then when I go to do it, I'll go all the way through. But, I don't know. I've considered it. I've thought about it. One of the nice things about, like, Castlevania, for example, is that when you play that, so you get to Dracula, and then you You basically start right before you're at Dracula. That's, like, the continue point. Which makes it, seem more possible. I mean, considering the difficulty level of that boss, this is a good thing. Now, my brother also told me, and this is, by the way, like the perfect source for information as far as my standards go here, because, like, my older brother told me is basically how you learned everything about video games back in the day. He told me that the Konami code, up, up, down, down, left, right, BA start, was basically put in there by the programmers and was never really intended to be part of the game. It was intended to, like, give programmers a way to, like, play through the game without having to play through the entire game. So, like, I'm working on level 5 or something. I don't have to play through every single stage up to that point on 3 lives in order to mess around with that stuff. which totally makes sense. I've also heard that Ninja Gaiden famously, you have like the last stages, and if you die somewhere in the last stages, you start all the way over instead of starting like at the closer point, which is how the rest of the game works. I've heard that was actually an accident, that it wasn't supposed to be that way. And they left it in that way, or it's like a hard mode that was supposed to be in the game, but then they like accidentally made the hard mode the default or something. This could, whoa. Shit. This could also be one of those differences between the American and Japanese games. You know, like the rumor, especially when I was a kid, was always that the Japanese version was harder. But I think there are some games where it's like the Japanese version is easier, and that might be one, because that mistake may not have happened in the Japanese version. But I'm not sure. So anyway, we were theorizing about whether or not the world code on this game, the hold A, Yeah. Hold A and push start. How far will he come? The hold A and push start was like a debug thing, so it's not really meant to be in there. But I kind of have my doubts about that, because if you were going to do that, you would make it start on the same level, right? You wouldn't make it start on the world. But on the other hand, when I think about Contra, I was like, well, I mean, you have like 30 lives. That is definitely a healthy amount of lives to get through a level on, or to get through the game. But it's not like the easiest thing in the world. You know what I mean? Like, and if I was programming the game, I would not want to have to do it that way. I didn't really get many good tips out of those Mario books, by the way. I was hoping for something a little more. I mostly looked at level 8-3, because I was like, how do you do this? Is there like a technique that I'm missing that easily works for the Hammer Brothers? And they were like, well, sometimes they'll disappear, but it didn't seem to know how to make that happen and like what that looks like. So I was like, well, that's not very helpful. So I may try and disappear them. But it mostly suggested the ones that are on the ground just running through those parts and jumping over them. Which I was like, okay, maybe if I'm like full speed running, I can jump over them and their hammers. I don't know. Seems dicey. Seems questionable. But it's something. I guess it's a thing to try, which puts me in a better spot than I was last time. I also looked at the last castle just to see what I was in for. And it looks like it's a maze. It's like a pipe maze. I didn't really pay attention to how to do the pipe maze, so I may be in trouble there. I kind of just looked at the last castle enough to know that it is a pipe maze, but didn't really help myself out a lot on that one. As far as like, well, here's what you should expect from this pipe maze. The shells seem really fast in this game. Is that just me? Seems like they got slower in subsequent games. Probably because they wanted you to do more like jumping on and using them as tools and stuff, but yeah, it definitely seems slower. So I guess the good news is if it's a pipe maze that's not particularly difficult once you know the way, maybe I have a chance of getting through it. And if it's a longer level, like a pipe maze that has a lot of rooms, I feel like that makes it more likely that there's like a mushroom somewhere in the castle. So if I could figure out where there's a mushroom and carry that with me to Bowser, I feel like I've got an excellent chance. A lot of ifs, though. A lot of ifs. And, like, I can't guarantee that there's a mushroom. I also learned that, which I guess I could have just discovered by observation, that in the World 8 is where things change a little bit. So up to World 8 if you make it like halfway through a level, you start at the halfway point. And in World 8, they're like, nope, not anymore, friend. You're going to start at the beginning and go through the entire level. Also, the levels are longer and give you the same amount of time. So it makes it not easy on you, makes it difficult on you. So they do raise the difficulty in some ways that I didn't really know. So that's something I learned. I learned a couple things, but overall I was kind of disappointed. I thought they would have much better specific strategies for dealing with the Hammer Brothers, and they don't. I wish, if it was back in the day, so you used to be able to call a Nintendo, they call them Nintendo game counselors, which, now knowing someone who works in counseling, I'm like, seems like an overstatement of their importance, but okay. But, on the other hand, I guess I've been pretty frustrated by games in the past, so who knows? Probably more frustrated with Mario than my own father. Because my expectations were different. That's what I learned about myself and about life. It's about where you set your expectations, and then when something fails to meet those expectations, that's where the conflict comes in. What am I talking about? Didn't even know that guy was there, but it sure looked like I did, didn't it? Oh, bullshit. According to this book also, those plants won't come out if you're standing on the pipe. And it's, the plant is down, it won't come out. And if you're standing right next to these, they won't shoot. Oh, God. No. Which I didn't know that. I still don't know if that's true. I feel like if you're standing on them, they will still shoot, but I could be wrong. That's where I would have put a mushroom for me. If I was doing a Bill and Ted and I could put mushrooms in this. I always had this idea for a short story because I heard about, so Mario 2, aka the Lost Levels as we call them in the States, was like, I heard somewhere that it was a response to people saying this game was too easy. Which I don't know who those assholes were who said that, but fuck you. So they made a very difficult game because it was kind of like, well, I get it. The difficulty of older games makes a lot of sense because, like, back in the day, if you had a Nintendo library of, let's say, 10 games, that was a pretty healthy size. Most people, I would say, did not have more than 10 games. And now, someone who had 10 games, 10 video games at their fingertips would be like, so low on the gamionomic status, socio-gamionomic status level that I would feel for them. We would need to start a charity for them. I mean, this little box has like 15 games just built into it. Anyway, so like when games were much more scarce, when it was way less likely you had a bunch of games, it makes sense that they'd be harder. Because it's like, well, something that's harder to master would be more desirable at that point. Right? Because you're like, well, I don't want to play this game and have it down in a day. Ho ho ho. Because then the games doesn't really have much replay value for me. And now that isn't necessarily something we need to worry about. Ho. Because I think most people are like, well, I can play another game. I don't know why I started talking about that. Oh yeah, so then Mario 2, I've heard rumor, was like a response to people saying Mario was too easy. And so, the designers of the levels were kind of like, I'll show you easy. You biatch. Great. And made them very difficult as a result, you know, and basically it was kind of like, you want a difficult game? Here you go. And then people were like, yep, that's indeed a difficult game. Maybe I was wrong. And I always had the idea for like a short story about someone who did that, but it was because like they were embittered about, you know, the gaming industry or something. And so they made a game that people really loved, and it was kind of a cozier game. But, you know, and then decided to basically ruin it by making a very difficult version of it. You know, and updating the game so that the difficult version was really the only one that was available anymore. And ruining it. Basically ruining everyone's happiness out of spite. For some reason. I'm not sure where the spite would come from. But, you know, where does spite come from? That's the question that's asked too little in literature. People ask, like, where does love come from? Heroism. But, spite, underrated. Underrated and underexplored. Jeez. Dingle-ingle. I also always wondered when I was a kid, does Mario eat mushrooms in these games because, like, you know, Popeye ate spinach and they were like, this will convince kids to eat spinach, which it never did. I think I would have eaten spinach if I thought it would make me as strong as Popeye, but also if I could, like Popeye, just like squeeze it and eat the entire bolus of spinach from the can in one go, I think I would have been more interested. Popeye also ate the worst form of spinach. I mean, spinach is fine. If you just have regular-ass spinach, it's just lettuce, basically. And I think you could get a kid to eat lettuce. If you're like, okay, just eat some lettuce. I think a kid would... It's not like a weird, freaky food, but like canned, creamed spinach or whatever, that's not good. Not a delicious treat. And I always wondered if, like, mushrooms in this game were kind of, like, doing the same work. If Big Mushroom was like, let's make people think mushrooms will make them big and strong. But I also kind of don't feel like the mushroom industry needs that much help. It seems like they're expensive as hell. And, like, beloved by a contingent. It's not like a kale, you know, where it was like a kale really needed a big revival in order to hit its stride. Big push. Ah, shit. I like that the Lakitu guy is in that Bob Ross happy cloud. It's like a real, I don't know, for some reason to me it feels like a real fuck you. Check this shit out, and it's like just heaving bombs at you. It's like if we painted a big smiley face on a bomber plane. And it was like, how do you like that, bitch? I'm smiling about these bombs that I'm killing you with. Do you have a feeling about that? I would think you would. I'm standing and playing today. I just did a standing podcast. I've had some problems with my hamstrings while exercising lately. One I definitely tore. Not all the way, not a complete tear, but it had a tear in it. And now I think I've done the other one, but it's not nearly as bad. It's not as severe as the first one that I did. But it's not good. Let's put it that way. It is not in good shape. And I think sitting has contributed to this problem. I mean, because sitting was very painful after it tore. But also in the last couple years, I got a different job that involves a lot more sitting. I mean, my previous job was a lot of sitting. Don't get me wrong. I was not like working the lumber yard or something. It was mostly a desk jockey, but I was at least getting up periodically throughout the day, I think, and spent some time standing. And now it's like if I go to work and I stand at all, it's pretty rare. So I feel like that may have contributed to it, but I don't know. So anyway, I'm trying to stand and play this. And I'm like, maybe standing is like, this will be my new article. People have been playing video games sitting too long, and unlock your real potential by standing while you play. Some shit like that. Doesn't seem impossible. But the whole standing desk thing too, I really hate that. I feel like we took the wrong lesson away from like the fact that sitting's not good for us. And we were like, well, how can we facilitate the ability for the average worker to, you know, stand and work? And it was like, well, maybe they could just take like a 10-minute break every hour and, you know, walk or stand or something. And it's like, no, let's just make a desk that they can stand at. And then we all act like, oh, thank you so much, my caring, wonderful workplace. By giving me this standing desk, it's proven to me that you really care about me. And I'm like, I mean, they care about your ability to continue working, I guess. Or like the treadmill desk is even better. Because I'm like, I don't know, I guess it's like better than just sitting there again. But at the same time, I'm like, gosh, is that not really the same as like taking a walk in the middle of the day? Or like at all? Because, you know, treadmill is like not the same as walking, right? Like we all know that. I'm not saying anything revelatory there, but gosh, is it like treadmill is boring and it's, you know, not as stimulating as regular walking outside, but like being on the treadmill while working seems like a special version of hell. And maybe that's what's weird about it to me is I'm like, I don't know, it seems like that would be hell. It seems like we've taken something that should be hellish and been like, no, this is great. Or, you know, something that would be, it seems like something from the novel 1984 by George R. Well. George R. Well. Where it's like, ooh, and they, you know, the workers, their bodies were deteriorating and they couldn't work as much. So then they made standing desks and treadmill desks. So now they all treadmills while they work. You're like, my God, what a horror. I'm so glad that hasn't come to be. Sorry, this is the one that really gave me a bunch of hard time last time. A bunch of hard time. I hated it. Oh, fudge. Now I'm in trouble. Now I might be trapped. Oh, no. Definitely got trapped. I'm proud of myself for not giving up. I've definitely been a little depressed the last couple weeks. And, you know, if that were a real-life situation, I probably would have given up. But it was a video game, and I was like, well, maybe I'll work it out. Who knows? And I didn't, but I tried. That's like the light shining through the clouds, right? Is like, well, I didn't just completely quit, I guess, so that's something. But yeah, it's been a downer lately. Not gonna lie. I don't know why I would lie about that, because who cares? It's just felt like life is very pointless. It didn't help, you know, I was feeling this, or thinking about it anyway. By the way, you don't need to be concerned about me. I'm fine. I've been through this before. I'm an expert. And I know how this works. You keep doing things and it'll pass. And then you'll feel fine. But lately, you know, it's been one of the down periods. And I've just been feeling like things are pointless. Like, you know, my life is pointless. I mean, I feel like everyone's life is pointless, you know, so that's maybe the difference between this and a normal, just a horrible depression, is I'm like, well, it's more just like saying the universe and everything is pointless, as opposed to saying like, I'm particularly pointless. I'm no more pointless than anything. I was reading this book, I think it's called The Science of Storytelling or something like that. And it just starts out by saying like, everything is pointless. And I was like, well, I don't know if that, your intro here is going to work for everybody, but you've got me hooked. So I'm like, okay, go on. And then the intro doesn't really go on to say like, except it kind of just says like, you know, we can use these stories to distract ourselves from the fact that everything's pointless. And I was like, I don't know how well that works if you're the person making the story, but okay. If you're positing the theory that stories exist to either distract us from everything being pointless or to sort of create meaning out of things, I'm like, okay. I can buy that at least as a general idea, as a premise. Fuck. Why are these things giving me such a hard time these days? I really hate them. They really, all the other creatures in this game, Mario can, like, outmaneuver, except for these guys, and then, the Hammer Brothers. The things that are giving me trouble are the ones that I can't, like, outrun. Kung. But yeah, I was feeling very like everything's pointless. It's very like a juvenile way to put it too. I was like, we watch like a TV show and like they all have a point, a purpose. And you're watching a TV show, and if a character on that show, like, we watched the last season of Stranger Things, right? And I was like, you know what I realized watching this show is that I'm jealous of these kids, even though they have to go to this hellscape all the time, and sometimes get killed and stuff, because I was like, their life has a purpose, though. Because if they don't, like, destroy these monsters or whatever, nobody will. And the world is doomed. And it's like, okay, so they're saving the world. That's nice. And I'm like, I don't need to save the world, but man, am I distant from, like, world saving. Not using my skills and abilities to save the world. I don't know if you realize that as you watch me do yet another hour-long video of playing a game that, is, I don't know, gonna be 50 years old pretty soon here. I'm not a world saver. But yeah, and I was like, I felt that way, and also simultaneously it was like, that's a ridiculous way to feel. You know what I mean? Like, because that is how stories work, and that's why they're stories, because that's the way they work. But real life doesn't work that way, right? Because nobody is building real life. No one. It's not narrative. It's like that's what your brain tries to do, is make real life into a pattern, into a story. Tries to figure out, like, what is the pattern here? What is the story? What is the narrative? Am I the hero of this story? And, that's kind of how human brains work, but not how life works. Even though we try and make it do that. So anyway, yeah, that's my latest bout of depression, has just been that life is pointless. It's been a difficult one to sort of get out of too, because it's like, I'm mostly immune to the arguments that would say life is not pointless. Fine, that's fine. I'm okay with that. Maybe that's the secret to that stage, is just get there with a mushroom. And you'll make it, probably. Yeah, it's kind of like if you're totally convinced there's no afterlife, and then that's bringing you down, and then people are trying to it's like, well, I'm not going to be convinced that life has a point that I just haven't realized up till now. Do you know what I mean? It's more like I just have to trick myself back into the thing where, yeah, life is pointless, but I'm just not thinking about it all the time. It's like death, right? Where you're like, well, death is bad, but as long as I'm not thinking about it all the time, it's tolerable. And when you're thinking about it all the time, that doesn't go well. So I think that's the nature of this. See, now, if I was only recording the relevant parts, gameplay-wise, you wouldn't get all these great insights about why I'm a little down today, and, death, and how you should feel about death. I was kind of thinking of, I try and do different projects from time to time, and I was like, maybe this year's project is going to be like doing some reading or figuring out and trying to get more comfortable with the fact that I'm going to die. And just be like, well, maybe the way to do it is not going to be like, well, my life and or death meant something. And just to be like, how can you just kind of come to terms with the fact that you're going to die? It's probably not going to mean a whole lot. And once you're dead, everything about you is gone and irrelevant. But, at the same time, I was like, embarking on this project isn't risk-free, because I'm like, well, if I take this project on, I am going to have to wonder, like, what if that makes it worse? You know what I mean? Which is entirely possible. Okay, shit. Another maze, huh? A Billy maze. These fireballs kind of coming out of nowhere. Don't make it easy, do they? Alright, World 8, we did it. I'm kind of considering it a success if I make it to World 8 in a reasonable amount of time. That's been kind of my thing. Then you're in World 8-1 with one life. One life to live. I guess, the other thing is, like, when you're depressed and stuff, or, like, when you're feeling this way, when you're like, life is pointless, it does make it very hard to take joy in anything. Because you're just like, well, everything just exists. Everything that I like is just a distraction from the fact that I'm going to die. And then it'll all be gone. And, the undepressed way to look at that is like, hey, this is what we get, so you might as well have a good time. You know what I mean? Not like, unless your idea of a good time is like, I don't know, exterminating a race of people or something. Looking at you, Hitler, like maybe that's not to just go ahead and have a good time. Da-da-na-na-na-na-ta-na-na. Don't be humming that song while you're like gassing a person to death. That wouldn't be cool. But, for normal people whose idea of a good time is like, oh, I went swimming. It's like, yeah, that's okay to do. That's okay to enjoy. It's okay to enjoy a thing. Okay, maybe I can find a mushroom on this level. Maybe that's what I need to do here. There's gotta be one. This would have been a smart thing to look for in those guides that I looked up. Where are my possible power-ups? I know there's one in the next level. I think the next level. Near, like, all the Hammer Brothers, there's one. And maybe that's what I need to get through. shit. That was doomed, huh? Sorry, I took a pause to use the restroom. That's why I brought up earlier that I was standing, because I was like, this makes me feel like I have to pee for some reason, standing. I don't know what to make of that information, or if that's even information. I did drink some hot water. I do, I will drink just hot water in the winter, because it's, you know, I drink enough coffee to make myself a miserable, anxiety-ridden fool. So, you know, I switched to just drinking hot water at some point in the day. Poonmaster Flex hates it, because she's like, that's the grossest thing I've ever heard. And I was like, I could totally see how this is gross, but I don't find it gross. But I don't disagree that it is gross. I'm sure everyone's got something like that in their life, right? Where they're like, you know what? This is gross. It isn't gross to me, but objectively, this behavior is gross. Anyway, by the way, just don't be concerned about me as far as, you know, don't be like, am I watching a video that's like his, you know, cry for help or something? This is not a cry for help. This is a talk for, you know, I'm not doing awesome, but I'm fine. You know what I mean? We all have a not awesome day once in a while. Not awesome couple of weeks. I am jealous of people who it seems like don't feel like this very often, though. Or never really feel like this. I wonder what that's about. I remember I read this book. Oh God, what was it called? It was really short. But basically it was like a book, you know, about the idea of like, that being smart makes you unhappy. Which I've kind of decided is probably not true. I think it's like smart people perceive stupid people as being happy all the time, but they're really not. And also, I feel like it's just a story, an idea we've invented so that, you know, people who are unhappy can be like, well, it's because I'm smart. You know, if I wasn't smart, I wouldn't have to deal with this. I'm like, yeah, it sounds like maybe you're just trying to comfort yourself about being unhappy. And it was a book where this guy was basically like, well, maybe I can make myself stupider and then I'll be happier. And it wasn't a great book, but it was funny. The premise was good. And I was like, this is a worthy premise for a very short novel, which this was. But then I read this other thing one time, and it was not a book, it was just an article. And it was a guy who was basically like, I used to be unhappy a lot, or I would get depressed and stuff, and I told myself it was because I was smart and that kind of thing. And he was like, but then I started saying to myself, if I'm so smart, how come I can't figure out how to be happy? In other words, he was like, if my problem is I'm too damn smart, how come I can't, transform that, apply that intelligence to being happy? And I was like, that's actually a really good point. That seems doable. So he did, and I guess he was happier after he did that, but I don't know exactly how he was happier. That would have been probably good information. Sometimes I read things like articles like that or Nintendo guides and walk away and, the next day, for example, realize, boy, I should have been paying attention to a different portion than the portion I paid attention to. Because I paid a lot of attention to the mechanics of how this is going to make me start at the very beginning of this level again, but maybe should have paid more attention to where's a goddamn mushroom. Ugh. 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 I did one thing I'd talked or thought about or whatever last year was so there's this idea that the reason time seems so slow when you're a kid and so fast as an adult is that you're having lots of new experiences as a kid. And new experiences make your brain perceive things differently. And so, and as an adult, you don't end up having as many of those because you've done everything, right? The things that you're going to do. When you're a kid, there's a first time walking to the store by yourself or something. I remember when I was a kid, for example, we hung out with these other kids and one time they were like, let's ride our bikes to the mall. And the mall was kind of far from where we lived. It wasn't ridiculously far, but it was kind of far. And I was like, I do not know how to get to the mall. And it was scary, but fun. So I was like, I don't know where I am. I mean, I kind of know where I am, but I don't know the way to the mall. Or the first time I drove by myself, I drove to Hastings, which was open at that time. Not for anything in particular. I don't think I could afford to buy anything, but I was just like, well, I gotta drive somewhere, right? I can drive. I better drive somewhere. And so, I drove there and halfway there, I was like, I think I know what I'm doing. I think I know the way, but I'm not totally sure. So and then you start driving and you start realizing I need to pay attention to where I'm going. And you start learning things. So I think that probably makes time go slower. I don't know, you try a sport for the first time. You do anything for the first time and it's new and different. And you're like, I think you're doing that probably into your late teens, honestly. And then at some point, though, you're probably not doing that many new things. I feel like maybe this is why people do drugs a lot, too. Is because it's it feels like that's a new thing. Or it's well, I could do the things I've done before, but do it stoned, And then it's a new thing, and I'm like, eh. Kinda. You know, I climbed my first 14er, I did all these things, right? And so now, I don't know when the last time is that I did something that I've never done before, that I would call a completely novel experience. Maybe that's the mistake of this project, is I'm like reliving the past in a lot of ways doing this, instead of doing something new. So it's just gonna make my life go faster and I will age prematurely. But so last year I was like, what's a low-key way I can do this? Because also, I'm still not doing any traveling or anything like that. I was like, maybe I'll try some candy bars I've never had before. Which is like, I recognize that that is an extremely low-key way of achieving that goal, right? That's like the shittiest, you know, attempt to have a life is like, I'm gonna try a new candy bar. But that's what I did. Fuck you. And I tried a Zagnut, which I'd never had before, and it was pretty damn good. Yes. No! That was unfortunate. Oh, boy. Zagnut. And it's got, like, toasted coconut. So, you know, if that's not you, you'll hate it. Don't eat it. You'll hate it. But if that is you, I would give it a try. It was a new experience for me. Fudge! Fudge-sicles! Okay, so here's what I'm learning. It is possible to get... It's possible to get a fire flower in this. Oh my god, did I do it? Oh shit. Look at this. Ah! 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 I did it. I'm in the final stage. This is amazing. Okay, it is possible to get a fire flower in that stage, is what I've ascertained. Oh my god, I almost didn't make that. That would have been very fitting. Now I'm incredibly nervous and I'm gonna screw this up. Am I supposed to be going down these pipes? Okay, let's try this one. So we tried the one before 3 Goombas. And that's not it. Let's try the first one that comes after the lava pit. Is that there and disappeared? First one after the lava pit. I think this is a new area. Shit. Shit, shitty shit. Guys, I made it, though. I did it. I've gotten further than I've ever been. That's exciting. That is exciting for me. You know, part of why I don't want to do it the way, too, of, like, not showing the whole thing, it's because I want to... For some reason, it's appealing to me to have video graphic proof that I was able to accomplish this goal. Well, that was good. That was good. That made me feel mildly good about myself for a very brief moment. Talking about being depressed. And I'm like, that made me feel mildly good. Zagnut's delicious. I love it. Get a Zagnut. Try it. Abba Zaba, not that good. I thought Abba Zaba, I was like, well, this is going to be different. It just tastes like peanut butter, and it's the texture of like a Laffy Taffy. So if you want it, if you are like a peanut butter flavored Laffy Taffy is like my jam, and I'm in no position to judge because I'm like bit o' honey, bit of hell yeah. Oh god. But so you know, no judgment here. If you are into that, peanut butter Laffy Taffy is like, that sounds amazing, then I guess go for it. And yes, Abba Zaba is your only friend. But for me, no. No thanks. Because, like, something that tastes like peanut butter to me I guess it probably has like a lot of sugar and stuff in it, but to me that's too much like a food. That's just like having something, a candy that tastes like a biscuit or something. Which I'm like, I got nothing against the biscuit, but it's not, doesn't read as candy to me. I'm not like, this is a flavor explosion of whatever. And like, if I'm gonna eat something that's not good for me, that is a candy, it better be a candy. Do you know what I mean? I don't want to half-ass it. I'm not someone who's like, I refuse to eat candy because it's not good for me, but I am someone who's like, I don't want to eat a half-ass candy that I don't really like, because if I'm gonna eat something that's not good for me. I might as well get my value out of it. You know what I mean? It's like, if I'm gonna have to brush my teeth 3 times today, let's make it worth it. Let's not do that to eat an Abba Zaba. Sure do wish those bullets would hit those turtles, you know? Those little turds. Take a shot from a bullet. That wouldn't be such a bad thing. Oh, I put myself in a bad position there, didn't I? Alright, I think one more go at this, and then we're good for the day. We've made a valiant effort with our valiant hearts. Great game. Boy, if you want to be depressed, that's a good game. I have discovered one tip that I will share. I have discovered that oftentimes feeling down seems to coincide with using more social media, like checking it more frequently, and I've been on it more in the recent past. That's almost always true if I'm feeling bad. Whether that's like bad about myself or bad about the world. I think because like it feels like such a cesspool. You know, I was on Twitter today, and it was like Kirstie Alley is dead. And lots of people were just talking about how like she had some not good political views, which I don't doubt. But I was just like, I don't know, man, she's fucking dead. Like, can't you just, if, you know, holding not good political views is one thing, but like, it's not like she was fucking president of the United States. I'm not asking people to be like, you know, when Donald Trump is dead, show him some fucking respect. But I'm more just like, you know, she was an actress, like, who cares? And like, is it really, what is it doing for you to like remind the world like, hey, this was not a great person. She's dead. You know, I'm personally not mourning too hard, and it's like, well, that's fine. No one's forcing you to mourn anyone's death. I mean, I felt a little like this about the Queen, just because I was like, well, yeah, I get it. Like, and you know, I have no feelings about the Queen, warm or otherwise. I'm just like, I don't know. It's like the president of another country where I'm just like, I really don't know anything about them. I mean, I wouldn't say that I'll be likely to be sad when a former president that I liked dies. Just because it's like, I don't know them. But you know, once in a while I've been surprised by a death that hit me hard or something. But anyway, I think just staying off of that is like a good first step. First step in the recovery. All right, well, we got a little further than ever, everybody. That was an exciting time for me. That was a good moment. We also discovered that there is the potential to get 2 power-ups in that level. So that's a pretty big thing. That could be a game changer, as they say. We'll see you next time.